Up there. That's what I want when it comes live. Yep. Nope, time to go. I think I missed it. See if we get Andrew up anyway, there's the, it's running. So let's get over here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglash for the WDMA. We're going to be talking about package inserts a bit today. And I think that's a channel that is underutilized for the most part. And so let's get over to the news. But first, let's talk to Andrew Ettinger about customer loyalty.
What all industries have lost focus on is that an existing client is worth 10 times more than a new client. So the people who balk and say, well, I don't need to mail to my existing clients, or I don't need to follow up with them because they know who I am. No, they don't know who you are. They're not going to remember you. 75% of your business will come from your existing clients. So the people who say, well, I don't want to spend any money, direct mail or any other medium towards my existing clients because I already own them, that's not it. The whole end game is not new clients. It's keeping the clients that you have. If someone's able to have 7 to 10,000 clients and keep them, and they don't drop off after 2 years, and they stay consistent and they use your service the second time, that's the end game right there. You don't even need to advertise. You just need to get your existing client base. So the whole goal is to build a client base that's loyal to you, that remembers you, that you don't have to bid against because they've used your service again, that you're not going up against 5 other people, that they listen to your recommendations. That's the whole goal here. It's a path of least resistance and the path that people seem to want to spend the least money on. What all in this.
Okay, so we'll go over here to the PDF land. And here's the article. Here's his word for word what he had to say. I'll put that up in the show notes. Every day I put the show notes up, if there are any. If I do an interview, usually there aren't any, so don't go looking for them. But all you have to do is go to WDMA.org, and you can subscribe there for free. And we don't really, we send out email every now and then, once in a blue moon, if we're doing a meetup, which we are next Tuesday, February 28th, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we've got, oh man, I don't know, we've got about 14 people registered right now. So we got a good group. We don't need you to come, but you'll learn a lot, and you might meet some folks that, you can connect with for business, and we always have a great time. So I encourage you to get over to WDMA.org and register. I did send out an email to, anybody who's subscribed or whatever. So you may have that in your inbox. I'll probably send out at least another one or two before Tuesday, so people make sure they have the Zoom links and stuff. But we don't beat you up, that's for sure. Okay, so Andrew basically is saying, hey, look, whether you like it or not, most of your business comes from existing customers. And, when you're out there buying clicks, a lot of times you're paying for those customers, who hopefully remember you, but you're paying double, right? You're paying double for customers you already have. So it makes sense, instead of that, to send them something on a regular basis so they really remember you. And Andrew services the HVAC market, and big fan of refrigerator magnets, big fan of tags on your equipment, so that you know who did the service and you don't have to think about it. People don't want to make decisions. People don't want to think about it. So if you can be in front of them in a gentle way, then they will remember you. But they won't otherwise, right? So if all your money goes toward getting new customers, maybe tomorrow I'll do the bathtub model talk again. It came from my friend John Worth, but he denies it. Well, he doesn't anymore, but he did when I told him that's where I got it from. But we'll talk about the bathtub model in terms of your long-term customer sustainable strategy, and it goes along really well with what Andrew has to say here. And what he's saying is that especially as a service business like HVAC, people are gonna need furnace service, they're gonna need AC service, but they don't need it today, and they don't want to think about it today, right? So, but the idea that you can get them when they need it, well, when they need it, 30 people are going to descend on them. That's not when you want to be fighting. You want to be fighting when they don't need it. And you want to be reminding them of the good work you did. Okay? Well done, Andrew. Okay. This is a really thoughtful article by Christina Mullin, Manos, I believe it is, from DigiDay. I don't do DigiDay very often, but anyway, Pampers, I believe that's Procter and Gamble, has created the Pampers Club. Okay, and Richard, it kind of started funny. Maybe I missed the beginning, but anyway, it doesn't say who Pritchard is. Sometimes when I save these articles, a little bit gets clipped off or something. So I'll go back to the original and find out who this person is. But anyway, Pritchard is the in-house media team for Pampers and says that they've transformed their model by transparently collecting and leveraging, and I'm interested in the leveraging part, first-party data provided by parents, which then creates a one-to-one trusted relationship with parents from pregnancy through every stage of baby development. Is that true? I don't know. My friend Brett Bissell worked on a Chrysler project where we were doing a minivan club, or we talked about it. He and I talked about it. I didn't get that involved with it, but I said, are you sure that how do we figure out, if we offer it to everybody, how do we figure out the incremental benefit, right? How do we figure out if the minivan club actually brings in more money? And that's what one of the agency people down here, Eric Bean, VMLY&R's Chief Analytics and Data Officer, that's a name for you. Is there ROI for this? Does that ROI outweigh what you would see without that data? First of all, there's the cost of collecting the data. Second, does it really leverage? Okay, is it short or long term? Do you need it to rush in, or do you slow roll your way to a plan? One of the questions, consumer packaged goods typically don't have much data on their customers. They may collect some data off couponing. They have you send in. They may have a sweepstakes or something. They may have on-package stuff. They may, put their 800 number. I worked with General Housewares that put their 800 number on the bottom of their fry pans and things, and they were doing $1 million business, $100,000 a month, just from people calling up and asking what else they had. Imagine that, But it's not necessarily that easy to leverage. First of all, okay, besides just a name and an email address, brands need to figure out what role they play in a consumer's life. Do they really have something to offer? If you like let's say Green Giant beans. I like the French cut. What would induce me to reach out to Green Giant other than a bad bag of beans? Why would I tell them what I'm about, right? What benefit could that get me? Is it going to get me a better relationship with my grocery store where I get them? Are they different at one grocery store to another? Probably not. There's another problem with Pampers. I did a pretty extensive project with Toys R Us, or sort of against Toys R Us. A new batch of investors, this was years ago, came in and they said, well, we're going to be data driven and we're going to create this big buyers club, and we're going to track down all of our buyers. And I said probably to myself, well, yeah, but what are you going to sell them when they're sick of toys, right? It's like, well, what do you mean? Well, I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid. Yeah, but you're going to grow up. There was a time when we spent a lot of time in Toys R Us when our kids were little. And we'd go in there and we'd let them run around and play with stuff and kind of, keep an eye on what they what they seem to like, and then it would one of the parents would go out to the car with the kids, and the other parent would stock up for Christmas. But those days were pretty short-lived. So even if you had all of the data, if you had everything about those kids, they don't go to, they didn't go to keep going to Toys R Us. No, they got on to other things, on to tennis practice and cross country and high school and video games and whatever. Okay, so there isn't necessarily a great benefit, even to mountains of first-party data. Blockbuster Video, I talked about last week. Blockbuster Video came to me and said, we have 27 million households and we have all the history, right? And I said, well, how does that help you? What's the number one thing that triggers video rental? They said, actually, a blizzard, which we're going to get right now. A blizzard or a hurricane or relatives coming to visit. Out of the top 10, none of them can we buy. Like half of them we can't buy anyway. And I said, so what makes you think, you can drive this, that you can really push that? And they said, well, we just think with all that data, we'd be able to make some money. Well, we went over the break-even analysis, which I showed you last week, and I just couldn't make it work. The numbers weren't there, so I told them that I would not participate in it. Now, today's world, I might have been able to, knowing what I know now about data and analysis and machine learning, I might have been able to make something work, but I just declined, and they offered me hundreds of thousands of dollars to figure it out. But I declined. And a couple of years later, I was down in Fort Lauderdale, and I said, you want to have lunch? And we did. And they said, yeah, we pulled the plug this morning. Funny you should call today. And we lost $5 million. You were absolutely right. So just having a lot of data does not mean you can leverage it. Telling a person how great their minivan is doesn't mean they're going to buy the next one from you. It doesn't hurt, but could you be spending it in a better way? And it's a long time trying to figure this out. So how do we have this conversation with customers to leverage this understanding of what they might be willing to buy in the future? Or will that be of higher margin? And of course, if the consumer sits back in his chair and says, they're just trying to sell me more stuff, like, if you register or subscribe to WDMA, we're really not, We'd love for you to participate in our fight for direct mail, but does the margin warrant the level of effort? And it's not clear that it does in most cases. I hate to tell you. Even in catalog companies where we have 50,000 SKUs and we know the variety and the categories of stuff that people buy, it doesn't necessarily help. Especially if the catalog is gift oriented, so the grandparents are buying stuff for their grandkids. They don't care about the stuff. I mean, they want the kid to like it, but it doesn't tell you what they're going to buy in the future. It really doesn't. It's very difficult to use first party data, even at the product transaction level. Very difficult. The drummers buy guitars and the guitars buy drummers. And if you think you can figure this out, and you got more than the 500 variables we used, have at it. But if you keep track and you really study it, it's very, very, very difficult. And I'd be happy to talk with you about it, and I won't take your money if I don't think it's going to work. And, the agency says, well, Bean, the agency says, the ones who are doing it well are the ones planning now and have been for the last 2 years. Okay, we may be able to cut that short if it just doesn't make any sense. I can tell you that. Happy to do it. Or we can have a database audit and look at your first-party data that you're capturing now and that you're capable of capturing and see how that can work. Okay? Those clients that have been having the conversations, even if they aren't acting on it, are going to be in better position than those who've been sitting on the sidelines waiting. I'm not sure that's true. I think find an expert and really talk about it. Okay, here's an article about inserts. Excellent idea right now, and it came up in our secret large mailer roundtable, and so I thought I would talk about that a little bit. Although Alyssa Doesn't sound too positive. She says, you ever open a package and found tucked away with clothes you don't need a flyer for yet another product you probably don't need? That's kind of a negative perspective. But of course, anybody who tries to do it on a one product basis that they think you're going to really want, it's a tough deal to predict what you're going to really want. Okay, but insert media is really finding a cooperative spot, right? It also, as pointed out in this article, there's Eric Smith is VP of emerging media at an offline marketing company called Incremental Media, okay, which is a good name. For years, we used Leon Henry, and he was around for 50 years, and it seems like, I looked on LinkedIn, and it seems like they're still around, although leonhenry.com is available. So if you guys at Leon Henry are open to your name, that would be a heck of a good URL. Okay, search is more expensive than it used to be. Social isn't converting as well. Tactics like product sampling and direct mail have also experienced growth as of late. It's another way, great way to do product sampling is to put a little sample in the box you're already shipping to existing customers, like Andrew says. Okay, you can also, inserts can help advertisers reach consumers who are still shopping. Excellent point. Excellent point. I hadn't thought of that one. Excellent. Okay. Emerging brands tend to look for affluent, educated consumers, and older. I don't know what you'd call this. Somebody like Miles Kimball, who sells medical devices to beauty products, might go for somebody older. They suggest like HelloFresh, Fanatics, Wine Insiders. But if you're looking for an older market, you can do inserts in publications also. I prefer blow-in cards to bind in, but anyway. Ann Wang, who's brand's senior growth marketing manager, said Magic Spoon started testing inserts about a year ago and has kept spending on them. The CPM for inserts is about $15 to $80 for an average about 5 or 6 cents per piece, and direct mail can cost about 50 cents a piece. Yeah, it can cost a lot more than that if it's more than a postcard. But you're in there with 2 to as many as 8 advertisers. There's also some co-op opportunities that can cut that down in direct mail and have a similar kind of idea. There are a lot of ways to track. And again, if you want to really cover the waterfront on that, get an old direct marketer, and they'll tell you all the ways we used to track with a custom phone number, custom URL, magic marker along the side of the piece, a lot of things you can do. And the brands that offer inserts programs tend to have a thorough review process. And sometimes this thing can just be a gangbusters. I was hired by Windham Hill Records, and they were renting mailing lists and mailing out a little catalog. And they were trying to drive traffic to the retailers who were not affiliated but were selling their stuff. And they said, our target is people 35 to 55, men primarily, high income, high education. But they said we rent those lists and we don't get any real results. But we know that some people could just go to the store, to the retailer, and buy our stuff. So maybe we do get results. But we don't need to make money, they said. Well, I said, I don't work with people who don't want to make money. So I gave them some names of people who they could call, who I had also referred Blockbuster to. And they called back about a month later and said, we decided to use you. I said, you want to make money? Well, if you think we can, we're willing to try. So anyway, I found out that they were selling about 4 million CDs a year. And I said, you ever think of putting a little card in there that just says, we have a free catalog? And they said, no, we hadn't. And it didn't, I would have done something simple, but they put all kinds of ruined symbols on it. Anyway, we got 600,000 responses, and we got I'm trying to remember, we got 90,000 orders It was so profitable, it just changed the company completely. And the owner, the founder, sold out to BMG Records and made millions and millions of dollars. So, so insert programs can be a winner. Um, and sometimes it can just be a thank you note. John Worth, who did the bathtub model, tested for 6 months, tested just a thank you card to see if it helped the recipients buy a little more, like Andrew says. And if you're shipping something, he found that it was at least a 10% lift, and it didn't cost hardly anything to put it in a box. And I can tell you how he tested it over 6 months if you'd like to know. It's a very, very clever idea. Anyway, have a great day. Like and share. Your friends will